everybody, welcome to the Watch Pals. My name is Chris, and this week we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball Evolution. But first, I'm going to introduce the panel pals. Number one, Jeff. Thank you for being here.
Hello, and thank you for being here. And thank you to anyone listening to this for being here. Thank you.
How about Brian? He's up next. Brian, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris. I thank everybody for listening, and I thank you for bearing with us at this very difficult movie.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. And last but not least, the greatest person I know besides the other two. His name's Jordan. Jordan, thank you and welcome to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And this week, we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball Evolution, and the person who chose that was Jeff. So Jeff's going to be driving the boat this week, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff so he can take us through this mess called Dragon Ball Evolution. Jeff, take it away.
All right. Well, let me start off. Let me ask you guys a question real quick. When you hear the word anime, what characters come to mind? So we'll start with you, Jordan.
Goku.
Right?
Yeah, that's like he's Dragon Ball. Well, particularly Dragon Ball Z is like, it's up there as like I think one of the most watched animes ever, isn't it?
It has to be. I mean, I know in our lifetime, I know you and I have watched it. I don't think Chris or Brian have really watched it, but big part of both of our childhoods, I think. Brian, what about you? What do you think? When you hear the word anime, what characters? Now, what do you think? What characters come to mind?
Like Akira and Vampire Hunter D and things like that, like 80s movies.
Okay, so no specific characters, though?
Oh, no, I mean, no. Pikachu.
Okay, hey, I mean, that's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
That's valid. All right, Chris, what about you?
So for me, I think I was like in middle school whenever Toonami was on. I think it was on Sci-Fi Channel.
Uh-huh.
And
Toonami was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah. And so I found out about that and started watching. There's a bunch of stuff on there. But the ones I remember is Dragon Ball Z was always on all the time. Growing up, on Cartoon Network, Dragon Ball Z was on quite often, especially at night. But I also remember Akira specifically because I had that video cassette, the VHS, bought when I was in middle school because I was like, oh, this is awesome. I bought it on an FYE, or I think at the time it was called Camelot Music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I bought that was the one that I really got into because I really liked that movie. I thought it was awesome. The other one that I thought of as soon as you said that was obviously Goku, because it's just when you think of anime, you think of that Goku and Goku's face for some reason for me. Because I think it's, and especially in America, Dragon Ball Z is like the one that kind of, I would think, made it huge.
Yeah, it's really broken some boundaries. I mean, it's in our friggin' Thanksgiving Day parade. He's flying around now. So, when you think anime, it's hard to not think, to some degree, Dragon Ball right in there, whether you like it or not. And I kind of asked that intentionally just to kind of, for those out there who maybe aren't into anime and don't know who Goku is, it's almost like Japan's Superman, sort of. So, he's that level.
I think you have to know who Goku is in America. If you're not
you'd be surprised. There's a guy I work with actually who we all made fun of because he didn't know.
Well, how old was he?
He's about 50, I think.
Okay. I think our age and lower, you probably know who you probably know what anime is, especially who Dragon Ball Z is, Goku or Dragon Ball Z.
Especially the early 2000s, yeah, because they started bringing out all the big series over here and all the merch and everything. So
yeah, I mean, it's huge over here now. So but yeah, I mean, obviously Dragon Ball is one of the, probably the most famous shonen anime of all time, which means it's aimed primarily towards a young male audience. It's action-filled plots and fighting and things like that. So I would say, yeah, it's got to be top 5, probably most recognized, I would imagine. So, it was originally illustrated by Akira Toriyama, and it was in the Weekly Shonen Jump from 1984 till pretty much now. And I'm setting this up because, unfortunately, all of this rich history and what makes Dragon Ball Z, and everything else we know and love about Dragon Ball just did not make it into this movie for whatever reason. So today we're going to take a look at Dragon Ball Evolution. So
before you get started with that, Jeff, I just want to say that in time of this recording, the creator passed away recently.
Yeah. Akira Toriyama passed away recently, and funny enough, the gentleman, what's his name? Justin Chatwin actually tweeted, that he was sad about it, but also once again apologized for making this film. So I had actually never seen it. So that's why I picked it. I kind of wanted us all to experience this together and see if it actually was as bad as everyone said it was. It's sitting at a 2.5 out of 10 on IMDb. It's got a 14% critic rating and a 19% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It came out in 2009. It was directed by James Wong, who's probably most famous for like X-Files stuff, I would think. It was written by some schmuck named Ben Ramsey, and Akira Toriyama was actually part of it. Then he saw it and was like, what the hell is this? He was supportive of it at first, but they basically kind of forced him out, and he wasn't allowed to have any creative input on the film. And funny enough, he hated this so much that he actually went back to creating the animated series and the manga, because he didn't want this to be the last thing Dragon Ball created. So you can
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can technically thank Dragon Ball Evolution for its continued resurgence. All right, we'll go around. So if you want to start, Chris, we'll start with Chris. What were you expecting going into this one?
Okay, so I have never actually watched Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball or any of the Dragon Ball series. Never read any manga, obviously, but I think one thing that I would say is I was expecting to finally understand the story, because I think Dragon Ball is one thing when you think about it. Like, I tried to do this recently with One Piece. I was like, I'm going to watch One Piece. It seems interesting. And then you start looking at like the 500,000 different seasons. You're like, nah, I'm good. And I think Dragon Ball has that kind of thing with it. Although it has separate, like different types of seasons, right? It has like Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball something else, like Budokai, or what's a recent one that came out?
Super.
Yeah, so they have different like series, and so like that's a good way of jumping in. But like I think Dragon Ball, like Inuyasha is another one. It's like there's another one that was on Cartoon Network, and it was just like very dense and like I'm good. But I think going into this, I'm like, good. I can finally start understanding what the hell is going on in this world that was built, because it's such renown. It's like such a respected thing in anime and just in entertainment in general. It's such like an important thing in entertainment, I think, like as a series, as like a entertainment thing, a property. It's such an important thing in just society in general, like for entertainment culture and that type of stuff. So I was expecting to be like, oh great, I can actually understand what's going on, finally get a little understanding. And I realized after watching this, like maybe that's not actually the case. So expecting it, what I expected was like I was expecting a door to be open, but yeah, I'll say the rest later at the end.
All right, we'll save it. All right, Brian, what about you? What were you expecting?
So I've watched Dragon Ball in my teens to my 20s a little bit. Like I never got into it, but when Z was out, I watched it a little bit on Cartoon Network. I watched some of the original series on VCD from my friend had in a little CD booklet back in the day. So that was our access to the whole series there. What I was surprised by, or going into it, I didn't look too much into the film because I had heard it was not great. And it seems like there was a whole run of movies at that time where it was just these like Japanese properties that they were bringing to live action. And there's more examples I don't even want to give because that might be good fuel for the future of this podcast. But just not taken like, not enough care taken with the actual like content. So again, with Dragon Ball, I didn't know what to expect. I heard it was bad, but I knew that they cast the lead character as a Canadian white actor. So I was like, this is going to be terrible. Even though I knew Chow Yun-fat was in it, and he's I love that guy. I knew it was just going to be a disaster. I had a funny feeling.
All right. What about you, Jordan?
So I knew this was gonna be terrible. Like, just I remember because I am a Dragon Ball fan overall. And I remember seeing like the trailer for this, and I was like, this looks so bad. Like it's blasphemous how like you could just tell like it's just like this is not my Dragon Ball.
Right. Yeah.
How is this possible?
Yeah. I was growing up, I was a huge fan because like, but even before, at least where I was living, before it was on Cartoon Network, it was on UPN. They would show it in the middle of the afternoon.
I do remember that now.
And I remember like, oh my gosh, show's so good, but it would stop at a certain point in this show, like the series. And then I remember like me and my brother, we were on like some family trip, like family reunion, that's what it was. And we got on someone's computer, had internet, and we were looking up like the story of like what goes past the point that we saw. Because it just, like I said, it just kept stopping. Even when Toonami got it, it would stop at like some certain point. A Namek, I think, when they're fighting like Frieza's guys.
The Ginyu Force.
Ginyu Force, thank you.
Yeah.
So we're like looking up like what happens next, learn about Super Saiyans and like all that stuff. Like, oh my God, I can't wait for this. And they finally, you guys started showing more. And then this movie came out. I was like, no, absolutely not. This looks terrible.
Yeah, so I'm in a similar boat. Pretty much lifelong Dragon Ball fan. I haven't watched really Super or any of the new stuff, but I loved Z growing up, and I actually was introduced to that, I think probably through Toonami or something, but I liked it so much that I actually watched it. We had this channel on my house. It was the international channel, and I found out that Dragon Ball was on it, but it was not in English. But like you said, Jordan, it showed past that because it kept stopping at this certain spot, and it was uncensored, which I was like, cool blood. Like, oh man, he's giving him the middle finger. What? Yeah. So like, I remember like taping that on VHS and watching it not in English, and my parents thinking I was crazy. But but yeah, I think it speaks volumes that two of us here are pretty big fans of it, and neither of us chose to watch this when it came out, even out of curiosity. So,
do you think whenever the previews were coming out, people were like, "This looks awful," like even not knowing that it was awful, like prior to when people got announced? Were you excited at all, Jeff or Jordan?
No.
Oh,
well, when we got announced, like before seeing anything, I'm sure I would have been, but it just seemed like, how do you make something like this live action?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even if you didn't know what Dragon Ball was, like if you had zero context about the cartoon, go into this movie just as an action film, it looks like direct-to-video action film was churned out in a few months, and they just put it out there to see what kind of money they can get out of it. So
it made a profit though, which I was kind of surprised. Like a very small one.
It did, yeah.
On name, man.
I think it goes to show like how popular of a franchise this is.
Right, and I guess initially it was supposed to have like $120 million budget, but then after like Chow Yun-fat and John Marston signed on, they cut it to $30 million. So, yeah,
they were supposed to do sequels too. I read
there was supposed to be a trilogy. Yeah,
there's supposed to be 6 of them. I was reading last night.
Oh, geez, yeah.
The writer
one. The writer actually publicly apologized too because he was receiving death threats about this film.
Gosh.
So, and then one more fun fact before we get started: a lot of the movie was shot in an abandoned jeans factory in Mexico. So there you go.
It's fitting. It really is.
I'm serious. That's true.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that makes so much sense. That's amazing.
I have more questions now. Watching this movie makes me have more questions now about the story, but also about just in general how they would go from. I'm more interested now in knowing the actual story of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and all the different spin-offs to how it got to this. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that makes me actually want to watch it now.
So you know what? I've got a working theory about why this movie ended up how it did, and I sort of spoke to this with Brian earlier, but I'll bring it up when I think I should bring it up. But anyway, let's just dive into the story. I'm going to keep it pretty loose here because
let's dive into this.
It's not too So basically, we start out and we get kind of like a prologue and a backstory. The film begins with his voiceover, and it's explaining the legend of Piccolo, who is a character in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and Ozaru. So basically, they're framing him as a powerful alien who attempted to destroy Earth 2,000 years ago, and then he was defeated and imprisoned by powerful warriors known as the Seven Mystics. So kind of like setting up the villain of this tale. And something I did think was interesting was they leveraged more of the Dragon Ball story, then they didn't even touch Z in this. So it's like, and Z is arguably way more popular. Like Dragon Ball is great, but like, you know, if what people liked the most, I think, was Z. So anyways, that was interesting.
Well, before he wants to go on, can I ask one question about the two?
Yeah.
I thought Piccolo was like Goku's friend.
Yes.
Well,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and Dragon Ball, which like Jeff kind of alluded to, again, they're supposed to do it like a trilogy. So I think even the actor who played Piccolo is like
He signed on for 6 of them.
He had to be this like redeeming thing. So in Dragon Ball the show, he was like one of the main villains, and then he becomes a friend in Dragon Ball Z and helps train his son Gohan.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So he's like, Piccolo is villain in Dragon Ball, and then he's like not quite anti-hero guy. He starts like sort of anti-hero, but then ends up being like a good buddy.
Doesn't something happen in the anime where like it's King Piccolo, but then like Namex could do weird things, so he like dies. I don't know if he dies, but like there's
I forget. I haven't seen regular Dragon Ball in so long. I know like Goku flies through his body, like that's like the super iconic thing, and kills him. But again, obviously he comes back and, you know, whatever. He fuses with Kami later. That's totally separate from.
Sorry to get off track. Go ahead. Back to the intro.
No, it's fine. So anyways, they're setting this up, and then we come to a scene where Goku, and we find out that he's a high school student. And he lives with his grandfather Gohan. So this was already different because in Dragon Ball, when we meet Goku, he's a little kid, and his grandfather Gohan has already passed away. So he's just kind of like this little kid who lives in the forest and like takes care of himself. And he doesn't really know much about the world. He has a tail, which they totally didn't even give him in this. And he doesn't know much about the world in the series. And then he kind of meets Bulma, and she takes him on all these crazy adventures, and he learns more shit, and things go on like that.
But I'm glad to see Aaron Paul was doing something after Breaking Bad. Or wow,
this is definitely this was like his little brother. This is like
it looks exactly like
Rand
him.
Paul.
Yeah, he's got an Aaron Paul kind of look. So, anyways, we get like this little scene of him training with his grandfather, and they're like balancing on these like I don't know, like tight wire, like tight ropes. And they're doing all kinds of crazy, like, you know, it's cool. It's a cool scene, but already, if you're a Dragon Ball fan and you're watching this, you're like, this would not be something impressive that Goku would do. He could like do this in his sleep.
And he looks nothing like Goku. I mean, also, like nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since you brought this up, I mean, I don't know if this gets a pass because I don't know if Goku's technically like whitewashed because he's an alien, right? So like, but
if you even compare the art of the original character to this actor, it doesn't even, it's not even close.
A Japanese guy made it. Apparently they used like 30 cans of hairspray every time they had to do his hair too, which is hilarious.
That's where the budget went.
Static X look.
Yeah.
I'd like to say real quick if I could, speaking of the budget, it was very clear how terrible the budget was because when they show when he's sparring with his grandpa, that bug. And I was like, what is this? It's terrible.
That's 2009, though.
I know, but still, like...
Even 2009, though. That's like early 2000s kind of graphics.
Yeah. Some things look cool, like the Dragon Balls themselves actually kind of look cool, which honestly, I got to give them like a pass on some of the okay looking stuff. But yeah, so we get kind of this training montage establishing Goku as a martial artist, and he's pretty strong. And then he kind of is like riding a bike into high school, which already is an insane departure from the source material. And I watched this with my girlfriend, and she was like, now it kind of feels like
Twilight.
What exactly did she say? Yeah, it was almost like Dragon Ball if it were in like
like Get It On.
It's not another teen movie like 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like they were just like, hey, teen movies are really popular in this kind of thing.
That makes
Twilight.
sense.
Not another dragon movie.
Yeah, like it's just that. They just took that formula of a teen movie like Twilight or whatever and put it Dragon Ball.
Listen, I know what the formula is. I'm going to bring it up in a little bit. I know exactly, and once I say it, you're going to be like, oh, he's right. But anyways, they're kind of establishing that, you know, Goku gets picked on in school. He promised that he wouldn't fight people because he's like Superman. So he's getting picked on, and we see kind of Chi-Chi introduced here, and she's kind of with the one jock guy. And they're sort of just like establishing that he's a big loser and stuff.
And I didn't know that actress at first, but I was going to point out she was in the second Sin City movie. So that's all I've seen it in.
She was in Sucker Punch too. She was in
Sucker Punch.
Well.
That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then we get kind of like I don't know if it's a flashback or what, but it's like someone who looks like Ada Wong from Resident Evil with a gun, like
Jeff.
trying to.
So that's she was one of Pilaf's little. Yeah.
Right.
She peeled off.
What was her name again? I forget it.
May, I think, or Mai. Yeah,
May.
Who was a little kid in the show as well.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, we see she's established as like trying to find the Dragon Balls, basically. Then we sort of go back to class, and we see Chi-Chi. She's like in the hallway trying to open up the lockers, and Goku sees this, and he just uses his chi to like
his kai or ki or whatever they call it.
His chi, his ki, whatever.
So wait, is that like established thing of where the power comes from in the?
Well, ki I think is what they call it in Dragon Ball, but they say like airbending in this, which is not a thing. They basically stole that from Avatar because that's not at all.
So is there power in Dragon Ball? Is it actually like wind power like that, or is it just like it's life energy or something?
Yes.
It's not wind power. It's like life energy.
It's like a focus thing, right? Like it's like you can harness the power of the balls, but you also have your personal chi or whatever.
The balls are specifically just to make a wish. Like the whole point is you gather all 7. Shenron comes out. By the way, they call him Shenlong in this, which is like the real world myth, not the Dragon Ball myth, which, again, I'm assuming was based on Shenlong, but like, why not just keep Shenron?
There's that scene where he's in class. Did that already happen? Was that before or after the locker where he's like in class?
Before.
That was before.
There's that just random scene where he's like picturing, he's looking at Chi-Chi and she's like eating the strawberry.
Oh, right.
And I was like, what is this? I was like, why? Ugh, weird thing to put in there.
The one thing they do in this movie is they set up this like super high tech world where these like it seems like futuristic.
Yeah.
But then they have like the blending of like the old world type of thing with the new high tech. Is that in the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Capsule Corps is in the show, and
it's like dinosaurs and stuff.
Yeah, the show's crazy. Yeah,
because it's on Earth, but like I remember watching these kids like, when does this take place? Because there's dinosaurs but like there's flying cars too, which I thought was kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I really hate that part where he was like fantasizing Chi-Chi eating the yeah, because that if you know the character Goku at all in the series, he literally marries Chi-Chi because he thinks it's like food. He doesn't understand that he's even gonna be in a relationship with her.
A man
he
child.
has absolutely zero. Yeah, he has zero interest in women that way. I mean, clearly, eventually he must to some degree because he has kids and stuff. But like the way they're painting him as like this adolescent like hornball here. Yeah, so it's like, what are you doing there? So basically, he opens the lockers. Chi-Chi kind of like gives a little hint that she understands that it was chi a little bit or ki or whatever they're calling it in this. I forget what they call it in this movie specifically. But then I think she ends up inviting him to like a party at her place, and it's Goku's birthday today. So Gohan has his cake. He's ready to celebrate, and Goku's nowhere to be found because he skips out to attend this party where he then goes in. He sees those jocks at the beginning, and they're all trying to beat him up, and he's basically just dodging them all. And it's kind of funny. Like if this weren't Dragon Ball, this scene would be kind of entertaining because he's just dodging a bunch of punches and stuff, and they're like falling into fountains and things like that. And like the dude's car gets all messed up, and then he's like, all right. And after that, he just goes into the party pretty much. But it's at this point we find out that Piccolo, our villain, is back, and we see Gohan trying to fight him. Basically, I would just like to point out that Piccolo, I don't know if you're familiar with the Marvel character Super Skrull.
Yep.
But he looks exactly like Super Skrull and not like Piccolo.
Well,
So
I remember
it's just
when they first showed us the Skrulls for the Miss Marvel movie, the first one, people, when they show the Skrulls, like, these people look like Nameks. They all look like Piccolo people.
yeah, it's true. That's true. The Skrulls look more like Nameks than Piccolo does in this movie. Piccolo does look cool, but he just doesn't look like Piccolo. So he looks cool with the hood up anyway. Once he takes it off, like he's missing the antennas and stuff. It's like, what?
What is up with this dumb ship, by the way? It comes up quite often. He's flying, this ship he's flying around.
Cruising around on? Yeah.
It's so stupid. Is that real? Like from the source material?
I honestly don't know.
I don't think it was that specific enough anyway, yeah.
If it is, I don't remember. It's been I'm actually rewatching
It's
Dragon
like
Ball.
it's like they have high-tech flying cars, and there's this guy with these like, you know,
Style. There's a style of it that is somewhat similar to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
because that thing's so stupid looking.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, so basically Piccolo kills Gohan at this point while Goku is at this party off with his girl that he likes, Chi-Chi. And then he also all of a sudden feels that his dad's like in trouble or whatever, or his grandpa.
he kills him by exploding this house on top of him, which is like,
Yeah. He steals the Dragon Ball and he kills him, and
he doesn't steal the Dragon Ball because Goku has it.
oh right.
He's looking for it. Yeah.
He was looking for the Dragon Ball. It wasn't there. He kills Gohan. And I'm gonna stop here for a second and kind of get your first impressions, which we've been getting, but so far at this point, how are you feeling about this? Let's start with Brian.
So at this point in the movie, I mean, at this point, it just feels like a teen movie that they turn into an action movie and they just stuck the name on it. It's just like there's not really, it's barely holding on to a thread of what the cartoon was.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you're still hanging on at this point in the movie, you either are a fan of the cartoon and have to see how bad this gets, or you have zero context about anything and you just have no idea what's going on and you're just sticking with it. So at this point, I mean, I was just kind of like, all right, let's see where it goes.
Well, yeah, or you're us and you have to watch it.
Or you're forced to, yeah. And you're looking at the clock
watch.
every 10 seconds like, oh, Jesus Christ.
All right, Chris.
Again, I think I'm asking the question as we go. Like, I'm confused and like wondering as I'm watching it, is this actually how the source material starts? But also I'm seeing the teen movie tie-in, like they're trying to make it a teen movie for American audience. At 2009 seems a little late for that type of thing. That seems like early 2000s type of thing. I'm also wondering, when I was watching, I was like, are they trying to set up, it seems like they're trying to set up like a whole cinematic universe. Was Marvel doing that in 2009 or is that later?
I think that might have been later, or it was just about to happen. When did Iron Man come out?
I think 2008, 2009, and then like Thor came out, Captain America.
Iron Man
out.
kicked it all off. It was like the whole
I think
cinematic thing.
I think it was 2008 that came out.
At this, I was like, oh, maybe they're trying to make a cinematic universe and just failed at it. But like, as the movie goes on, we'll get to that. But like, I was confused, but also interested in like the story of Dragon Ball. I thought this was actually going to be the story that, so at this point, I'm like, he exploded a house. It seems like it's very convenient. He's all of a sudden here picking up the Dragon Balls. Like, is he just come back to life this day?
Yeah. Did they even explain that? I don't
know. No, just back.
So why is he all of a sudden just looking for him?
Well, because he wants to make the wish to like rule the world, pretty much, right? Like that's why people want the Dragon Balls. But
So he also, going back a step to the classroom scene, the teacher asks him about the history of the world or something. They're talking about that. And he brings up like, oh, well, what about whenever Piccolo came and tried to just kill everything 2,000 years ago? And the guy's like, what are you talking about? So like,
oh, nothing.
That's another like little flag. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. It seems like it's not common knowledge for everybody too.
Yeah.
Almost let it slip again.
Yeah, that was weird. Like no one knew about this. I don't know.
Right. All right. And Jordan, what are you thinking at this point?
Trash movies.
Oh, good.
I like Jeff said, there are elements like to it that the very small elements, but like the Dragon Balls themselves, like, yeah, those look cool. And like, but again, like Brian was saying, it's like a teen movie. And it's only Dragon Ball Z in name, and like that's it. Like, the characters has the same name as people from Dragon Ball, but other than that, it's like, What is this?
Yeah, I said something about it earlier, but I'll just say it because there was a lot of movies that came out in that 2010 era where it was all these Japanese properties that were just terrible, like terrible movie adaptations, like Tekken, Dead or Alive,
Yeah. Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Well, there was a sequel to Street Fighter as well, the Chung Li one.
Way worse.
We're gonna watch Street Fighter someday, probably.
I'll watch the first one. That one is at least comical enough, but
it is interesting because Netflix is doing that now and has been doing that past couple of years with like Death Note, Bleach. I think they did Bleach.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. Kristen and I are talking about that. Like, they're still doing it. Just like, just stop.
There's a couple that are good, right? Like One Piece was pretty good live action. Yu Yu Hakusho wasn't bad, but they like sped it up way too fast. And then Rurouni Kenshin is also really good. But like that's it. Most of them are terrible.
It's also weird we haven't brought up like the best anime series of all time, Cowboy Bebop. Also, I keep on forgetting to remember that. And didn't they do a live action of that?
They did. It started great. I feel we can talk about this another day. It started so good, and then they changed the story. Like the story's written, just stick to it. I don't know why you're. Yeah, like. God.
All right, Jeff.
Real quick, I don't know if this scene already happened yet or is going to happen, so I could be wrong. But speaking of Piccolo, there's that scene where he's in his ship and he just like shoots something down.
Oh yeah.
And then but they don't show what he hits, and then they just show this town that's destroyed.
Yeah, the little girl.
He's just blowing people up.
Yeah, and there's a Dragon Ball there.
No, there is a Dragon Ball there. So
Dragon Ball there. Which I was like, they clearly had to save money for not showing what he actually did. He just was like, I'm gonna drop a red thing. It's supposed to be like he's shooting a power, but it's like, that's dumb.
Why didn't he do that fireball thing to the other places with the Dragon Balls and just take them?
Yeah, don't I don't know. You can't ask that question, Chris.
Because I have a real problem with the volcano scene, but go ahead.
All right. Okay. So I'm about to blow your guys' mind because up until this point in the movie, we're not watching anything Dragon Ball related. We are, in fact, watching a retelling of Spider-Man. Think about it. Yes, think about it. Ready?
Yeah.
Goku is basically Peter Parker at this point. Yeah. He's a nerd in high school with superpowers. Uncle Ben is Gohan. He's like I said, he's already dead in the series. You don't even see him. So why is he even in this? He has to die. So then Goku finds him and he wants to get revenge. And he's and Chi-Chi's Mary Jane. And we even got the Green Goblin, right? Like it's just,
clever girl.
Spider-Man came out 2002 and it was like an unstoppable force, right? The Sam Raimi ones.
So the third one was a pile of poobies, but
I mean, yeah, it's not as bad as you remember it, but it's still not the worst of the three.
Three is bad.
Yeah, it's okay. But anyways, that's the vibe I was getting. I was like, this is Goku Parker we're seeing here. We're not seeing anything Dragon Ball. And I'm curious if they were just like trying to almost do that, like the teen movie type thing. That
they've been trying to piggyback on it. Yeah. I mean, the only difference between him and Spider-Man is that Goku doesn't really have powers. He just kind of already has talent.
Right. He didn't get bit by a spider or anything.
Right. There was no spiders around.
Yeah. That's
he's
kind
bit by
of
a dragon.
Yeah, he's bit by the Dragon Balls.
By a big old bell.
Yeah, also the Dragon Balls have almost like a ring and Lord of the Rings type of thing going on where he picks it up and he like sees stuff, and that's not a thing that happens.
Okay, that's another question I had, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that is not a thing that happens. So anyway, all right. So his uncle or his grandfather's dead. Sorry, I said uncle because Uncle Ben. He's back at his house. It's all destroyed. You know, he buried him. He's sad. And then this lady comes in toting a gun and she's like going crazy. And he's like, who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And we find out that this is Bulma. So this is something that happens. Bulma and Goku team up and they're kind of like, you know, this duo throughout almost all of Dragon Ball pretty much. Except it's weird because they're like the same age in this, where what made it kind of endearing in the original was that Goku was a little kid and she was like a teenage girl and she kind of like taught him all this stuff. She's kind of like way more of a badass. I mean, not in a good way, like in this than I think in the show. But basically, they kind of get into a little fight. They figure out that they're not enemies, and then they go off to kind of try to find the Dragon Balls and stuff.
You're basing a pretty key parts of her.
What's that?
Of that scene. You're missing key parts of that scene.
Go ahead, fill them in.
I think it's interesting. Rather than giving her blue hair, they just put a blue streak in her hair.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right.
First off, she calls it something else on a Dragon Ball. She does it twice, and then instantly,
Yeah.
she just starts calling Dragon Ball. Like,
It's true.
like 2 seconds later. Also, she says something about DBE and almost winks at the camera. At 25 minutes in, she's like DBE and then like wink, like Dragon Ball Evolution wink.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I missed that completely.
Wow.
believe
That went
it.
over
I
my.
believe
That
it.
went over my head.
Yeah.
I totally missed it.
Because he was saying Dragon Ball energy. That's how
Yes.
she's able to like read it. And I was like, wow.
DBE.
Okay. All right.
And then the most dumbest, like maybe, I don't know if this is real in the show or source material. She just happens to have a locator that can locate these stupid things anywhere on the planet.
So the radar is real. Yes.
Okay.
It's the dragon radar.
Okay, that makes sense now. Okay, I'm glad that
yeah.
actually was part of it. That's
It's
just one
actually in the
stupid thing they
show.
jammed in there.
So basically Bulma in the show is like the daughter of this crazy scientist at the Capsule Corps, and she's like a super genius too. She invents all those like things she throws, and like the vehicles appear. Like she builds that stuff. So she's super smart and can actually do that, and there's people in that world that can actually do it. But yeah, the way they kind of just, here it is in the movie, like, you know.
Laura Crofter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's Emily Rossum, right? So
From Shameless, yeah.
It
Which
is.
I was like, I couldn't believe it when I first
Yeah.
saw her. I was like, oh, holy
I read a quote saying that she said this was her one thing to skip in her like filmography, and that it's not even entertaining if you're high.
Everybody involved with this film, it just says avoid it at all costs.
Pretty much. Anyway, yeah, I think we end up, I forget how we get to Master Roshi's. But also Master Roshi's is just like
Apartment.
It's a house in the middle of the super city.
yeah, so it's supposed to be like in the middle of this tropical place, and it's like on a little tropical island, and it's just like this little quaint house, but they had to like make it fit into the city, and I hate
Modernize it, yeah.
it. Yeah.
It was still technically an island, kind of.
He was
Yeah.
wearing the tropical shirts though, like as the character, right?
He was, yeah, but it's just like, one, Master Roshi's way older than Chow Yun-fat,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
he's
Chow
bald.
Yun-fat is. He's bald. He's got like a big, long white beard.
Yep.
He is a huge pervert, which they sort of allude to,
Yes.
and I kind of get why they wouldn't really dive into that in this, which, okay, that's an acceptable change to keep it like PG-13 or whatever. But yeah, basically he shows up there. I forget why, because I struggled paying attention to this. And
It's Chow Yun-fat, by the way.
Gohan told him to go seek him out.
Well,
Okay.
also she had the locator to locate another Dragon Ball, and it took him right there.
right.
But what were you saying about Chow Yun-fat, Brian?
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you're a fan of any action Hong Kong cinema of the 80s or 90s or John Woo, you're a big Chow Yun-fat fan, and when you see him in this, you're gonna be like, "What the hell is going on here?
What'd they do to my boy?
What they do to my special boy, Mr.
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger?"
So anyways, yeah, Roshi trains Goku. Master Roshi is his name, and not Chow Yun-fat's playing him. While the group kind of searches for Dragon Balls, they encounter like various obstacles and enemies sent by Piccolo. And each encounter kind of helps Goku to improve his skills, so on and so forth. And we get this really weird scene of them like traveling, which happens a lot in the series, but the way it's shot is like...
It's like awkward CG, like
It's awkward CG, but it's also after they find Chi-Chi just in like a random martial arts tournament in the middle of nowhere.
Like a quarry. They're
Yeah.
just like fighting on some rocks.
And it's like, by the way, I'm a martial artist too. And, you know, that's true. Chi-Chi was a martial artist in the show and stuff. So, but yeah, so basically this was kind of funny. Like, I get what they were doing because Goku straps on the huge backpack, and like that actually happened in the show. And it was nice to see them try to do something related to the show. But that little montage scene was so weird. And then as they're traveling, they fall into a pit. And then we meet our thief and final member of the party, Yamcha, who's just like,
Sucks.
he sucks. He's
Wow.
supposed to be like comic relief a little bit, but he's also like a martial artist, and he's not in this. He's just like a thief in this. And then
like a desert thief. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of technology and crap.
He does.
I think he was a thief originally, though.
He was, but he also was a
yeah.
martial artist,
Yeah,
which he
right,
just
right.
isn't in this. He
Doesn't have his cat.
He didn't have Puar. Yeah. No. Oolong's not in this. Puar's not in it. Is probably, that's where the $100 million extra would have went to actually making them look
it's
normal. Probably
good Mr. Popo's not in this.
Yeah. All right. We'll just leave it at that.
Cut that.
So yeah, they like kind of camp out in this ditch while they're waiting to see if if they're like, oh, we don't want to let Yamcha, or they didn't agree to his terms. He basically has a ladder to let them out, and they're just kind of chilling at a fire. There's sort of some bonding, and then Master Roshi's starting to like show them flashbacks in the fire, which is very strange. And they kind of give the story of Piccolo and stuff, and but yeah. Anyway, so after that, Master Roshi just jumps out, and he's like, "All right, Yamcha, that's enough of this," and they kind of get him to agree to help.
But then why all of a sudden the locator's like, oh, there's a Dragon Ball around here. Like,
right,
all of a sudden she just turned it on again.
They find a Dragon Ball right where they're at, and then Yamcha comes down to help them, and he's like starts digging with this crazy drill, and they find it. It's very weird.
Because he gets them to join him by saying, look, if you want my drill, they give him 33% of the profits from her power she wants to make with all the Dragon Balls, her super power unit or power thing.
Energy source.
Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I'll give you, or Roshi says give him 33%. She obviously doesn't want to, but or whatever. That's a little back and forth of that. But it's just like so like convenient. Everything just kind of falls into place. And he's like, I have a drill through this hole.
Yeah, it's like action beats. It's like the story's starting to drag here because we've established the characters. Now we need some action beats. They're going to find a Dragon Ball. He has a big drill. It's going to cut through a wall. It's just like clockwork, dude.
And they drill through the wall into a volcano.
Right. Into a volcano. Does anyone want to talk about the volcano part?
Let Chris do it. Yeah, I want to hear Chris.
I would love to talk about it. Do you want to go through it, though? Do you want to explain what happens in the scene?
They're like fighting a bunch of Piccolo's henchmen who are attacking. I think they're kind of like, are these supposed to be like Cybermen? They're not even really in the series yet, but
they take his blood out of Piccolo to make them, apparently. Because they show that scene.
Yeah, but the Cybermen aren't like even part of Piccolo. Anyway, so they're fighting these things that basically can't be killed, but they happen to just drill into a volcano, and they discover that throwing them into the lava kills them. So I'll let you take it from there, Chris.
So they throw him into the lava. They're like, oh, got throw him in the lava. And he just keeps on cutting them up because they see a Dragon Ball across the room or across the area. And it's like in a lava pit. It's on top of on top of like a mountain, almost like the aggro crag from Guts. And they're like, oh, we got to get there. So Goku starts cutting up the enemies, which are like these, every time they cut them, another one two form, right?
Right.
Is that how it works?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
The Gemini effect.
And they're like, what are you doing? Why do you keep cutting them? They just keep reforming. And he's like, I'm going to make a bridge. He throws them in the lava to make a bridge.
That's right. I was trying not to, I was like falling asleep at this point. So I kind of.
So he jumps across them and gets the Dragon Ball. But as he does, the other May or whatever her name is, the henchman.
Oh, the shape-shifting lady? Yeah.
So she shows up and like knocks out of his hand or tussles with him or shoots him or something. And just then, they all of a sudden, the other part of the group comes over.
Yeah, there's there on the other side.
Right.
Why didn't you go that way originally?
Just found a shortcut.
Yeah. Why did you need to do that whole thing with the lava bridge if they could just walk around the other side?
Them beats,
it doesn't make
baby.
any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Also, Goku sees like this it's not a flashback, but it's just like a vision of like all this death and destruction, and then he sees his dead grandpa and stuff too here.
Every time he touches the Dragon Balls, that happens.
Pretty much, yeah.
This is so stupid.
So after that, we end up at Ernie Hudson's in this. I almost forgot.
Yep.
Yeah, he did show up like 3/4 of the way into the film, and I was like, oh, he hasn't been. And to be fair, Ernie Hudson's awesome, but you don't really see him in too many big blockbuster films.
And again,
not that this was a big
I'm
blockbuster.
kind of with Jordan here. I don't even remember what his character name was or what purpose he served.
He just had some kind of like robe on, and he was like
he was the head of like the monks in that.
Yeah.
He knew about the ancient rituals or whatever.
Right.
Oh yeah, whatever whatever was done to stop Piccolo the first time, I think.
If they get the Dragon Balls, you're gonna be in trouble. That's all he really pretty much said. Like, long and short of it.
Something about the life force to like control control Piccolo.
Yeah, which doesn't really come up again.
Control
It
Picklesburg.
doesn't matter. Picklesburg.
But they're saying that you might die using it, but I don't think that. I don't why.
Yeah, and Roshi's like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's all good.
He takes
So
risks.
Yeah, so anyways, after that, we're at a karate tournament with Chi-Chi, who's fighting Mai, who doesn't recognize her. I don't know. I guess Chi-Chi wasn't with her. Okay. But she's fighting Mai, basically, and we see Mai, like, scrape her, get a little bit of her blood, and then, like, lose the fight on purpose, and we see her, like, put it into a jar, which we'll find out later. And then, they're like, oh, hey, great job. And it's just kind of, like, a really strange segue. And then we see a little bit of, it's almost like cyberpunk-y in this place. Like, a totally different vibe from any other place in the movie. And we see, like, Yamcha and Bulma kind of walking around, and they're getting along, which, was kind of it's good because they get together for a little bit in Dragon Ball. So
nice
it's
like a nod to that.
Yeah. So it's cool. But
they also just met.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're in love.
Keep this movie going.
Yeah. They didn't have time. So anyways, we cut to Roshi training Goku again, and he's talking about airbending, which again isn't really a thing in this. And they're talking about I don't know if he says the Kamehameha at this point, but this is kind of where he's trying to like teach him how to like focus his ki and basically shoot a fireball. But first,
you're right, Jeff. That is the part. That's where he starts teaching that.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, we basically see him throw a Hadouken, which is not what a Kamehameha is. It's like more of a beam, but whatever. I get that they probably didn't have the budget to make it look cool. So basically he's training, trying to do it and figure it out in this room. And he's like, you gotta light all these torches and blah, blah, blah. And he's struggling doing it. And we get one of the cheesiest scenes I think I've ever seen of any film, where Chi-Chi was kind of like watching him train.
Oh, the love fire blowout scene. Happy birthday scene.
Yeah, so she's like, hey, if you can light these, for each one you light, like, I'll take a step. You take a step closer to me. Blah blah blah. Of course, he's instantly able to light these, and it's so lame.
We were all teenage boys once. We know what that offer stands. what we can do when that offer comes up.
Yeah. So he lit them all. They smooch, and then he blows them all out.
Didn't she say that? She's like, you should blow them all out.
She did something like that. Yeah.
If you want to see a good candle blowing or candle martial arts scene in a film,
what?
Watch the 36 Chambers of Shaolin.
Oh, okay. I was like, don't say watch
I actually had a point. No.
Yeah.
I want to see the candle blowing you were just talking about. Anyway.
It's another film. That's personal collection.
So anyways, we cut to kind of like Bulma sort of catches Chi-Chi coming out from Goku's room, and then Yamcha's there, and they're like, oh, like you dog. And she's like, all right, I'm going to go. And then it turns out that she actually took the Dragon Balls and she's running away. And you're like, what? Like Chi-Chi betrayed them? So here's where we find out that there's two Chi-Chis. And when Mai, or whatever her name was fighting her in the tournament and took her blood, she used it to shapeshift into her. So now we get this cool scene of them like chasing. And then we see like this fire falls down and Goku's kind of sort of looking through and he sees two Chi-Chis fighting each other pretty much. He's like, oh, the classic, which one do I fight?
Yeah.
And hilariously, he picks the wrong one and knocks out the real Chi-Chi, which I thought was great.
And he sees on her arm that she has a cut on it.
And that's how he knew.
Before, when he first got to the tournament and he saw her, he's like, oh, are you okay? You have a cut on your arm. She's like, I'm fine. Right. And then, which called back to that. He's like, oh, crap, I kicked the wrong one in the face.
Speaking of Chi-Chis and infected blood, what did Chi-Chis get shut down for again?
Hepatitis.
Oh, boy.
Was that what it was? I had a funny feeling. Go on. Sorry.
Also, Goku almost dies from a gunshot here, which is like...
From May.
Yeah, I don't know who gives a her name is.
Who gives a shit shoots him.
But also, Goku can like withstand bullets, no problem. Like.
But that's the thing. They remind me like the plasma guns from Halo.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And as he's like fake dying, he sees Gohan, and he's like, "You can't die yet." blah, blah, blah. And then to awaken him, Master Roshi shoots a Kamehameha into him to like resuscitate him with CPR blasts, which doesn't make any sense because it's an attack.
Absurd.
And at this point, they have all the Dragon Balls, or Piccolo does.
has all the Dragon Balls. I'm not gonna lie, I tuned out quite a bit at this part.
I think we all did.
So wait, before that though, there's this part at 47 minutes in. I don't know if it's before or after this. They say like they're all together at the bar or something, and they're like, or Master Roshi's there. Maybe they're in like the monk area, but they say, "Well, there's no way now. There's no way. He has all the Dragon Balls. There's no way we can beat him." And then they're like, "But there's one way." And it's like all of a sudden there's this other way, even though they said it was nearly impossible. The only way they could do this the entire movie is you had to have all the Dragon Balls to kill Piccolo. And then all of a sudden there's this one other way that just pops out of nowhere.
Yeah, they had to they made it so you had to do it in a specific place or something, right? Am I thinking?
I don't remember that part, but they just all of a sudden, I think Master Roshi's like, no, I figured it out. Don't worry. And that's when he makes that vase thing or the prison thing or whatever, which never gets used or explained or anything.
Just for show.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I started to kind of tune out here. Let me
as if you, the viewer, are watching this along with us or checking this film out, yes, you should be falling asleep or passing out or
very angry,
turning something, kicking your television in at this point.
Oh, right. So wait. The team learns that Piccolo planned to use the Dragon Balls during the solar eclipse to gain ultimate power.
That's right. And he doesn't know what the solar eclipse means yet.
Right. That's right. Okay. It's coming back to me a little bit. So they rush to the temple where Piccolo is. Roshi tries to use that powerful technique to seal Piccolo away, but it did fail. So they made it for nothing, basically. At this point, they're fighting a bunch, blah, blah, blah. Goku dons the traditional, Goku...
well, his car, the Humvee is flying. Yamcha's Humvee's flying. Yeah, Piccolo shoots it out of the air, and because all of a sudden it can fly, shoots out of the air, and then while it's crashing in the air, he takes the time to put on the garb instead of being like, "Oh crap, we're crashing. I'm going to put on this garb."
He wanted to get fancy. Yeah.
That's all he was worried about.
Yeah, they wanted it to be Goku.
They wanted a big showdown. Yeah.
His hair changes. Did you guys notice that?
It gets a little more spiky.
Yeah, more like it does. It looks in the anime, which is
once he puts the outfit on. You mean?
Yeah, or after something, his transformation. Maybe it might have been after that, but
after he puts his finger in the socket.
Hey, I did that with a key when I was little.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, good.
Did you get zapped back?
Yes. My mom said I shot across the room.
Don't do that, kids.
Don't do that.
Why are you listening to this, kids?
So they briefly brought up Ozaru early on, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's like Piccolo's right-hand man," blah blah blah. So they're like, we see Roshi, he basically gets killed. Everyone's getting beat up, and Goku and Piccolo kind of are having their final battle, and then all of a sudden, the moon changes, and we find out that Ozaru is actually Goku. He's the giant ape.
Giant-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the part where, remember how he said in for real, Goku has a tail? Well, this is part of that. He's almost like a werewolf type thing in the actual comic book and the show, where a full moon comes out and he turns into this giant thing. He basically turns into like King Kong with a tail.
Huge.
He's huge. But in this, he just gets slightly bigger.
So that's what I understand. So if he's Ozaru, who was a previous Ozaru from 2,000 years ago?
Well, they just said it was him. I don't know. I think they were probably planning on
him in a past life or something.
They're probably planning on explaining this in the prequel.
Oh, they probably were going to make a prequel, and then they were like, well, oh, wait, we didn't get enough money.
They did mention something about him about 2,000 years prior. They did. There was something at the end there. They bring it up in the dream or something.
It would have been Goku, though.
No, it was something about Ozaru and where he came from and how it's... Goku is like the spirit is just transported into another body. Goku is the vessel or something they said.
Yeah, I was just going to say, whoever 2,000 years ago took that form of Ozaru, that's not the point. It's just the point that Ozaru exists.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
All right, I missed that.
Yeah, and like I said, it was this is a hard one to pay attention to. So but yeah, basically Goku and Piccolo face off. He transforms into this thing who, and then everyone who's still conscious is like, no, don't forget your Goku, blah blah blah, and he struggles and eventually he reverts back to Goku. Of course he does. And then we finally get a Ki Blast battle. And we get the Kamehameha from Goku. He's charging it up. And I was like, all right, this might actually be cool.
The payoff. Here it comes.
And I was hoping that Piccolo would do some special beam cannon, but he didn't. He just did a regular thing. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, that's fine. I guess he probably, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyways, but then Goku, like, flies forward with it, which I don't know if they were trying to, like, get the Kamehameha also to be like when he goes through him in the original one.
He's like riding the wave.
But like that just doesn't happen in anything.
Surfing
which
it.
is just like, this is, if anything, you would get pushed backwards from it. But
He just gets knocked out too.
yeah.
He just like knock him down. And he's like, oh, he's dead,
Yep.
and walks
Yeah.
away.
We'll leave him here.
Anyway, yeah, they win.
Not a scratch on him.
They win. They have all the Dragon Balls. Master Roshi's dead. So of course, guess what they use the Dragon Balls for?
The magic power of the Dragon Ball.
Which the dragon looked dumb, by the way.
That dragon.
So bad. Looks so bad.
It wasn't as bad as the bug, though. I wanted to bring that up earlier. The dragon
Yeah.
wasn't as bad as the bug, but it still wasn't very good.
It wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, the dragon was all right because they like had so much light shining.
Yeah, it was just like bathed in light.
Well, was it a 2009 dragon?
Yeah. So, anyways, basically, we get Roshi back to life. Our hero saved the day. He gets the girl.
Why doesn't he get his grandfather back to life? Because remember, Roshi's like,
yeah, I thought about that too. Like,
he's like, Roshi's like, your grandpa said that I have a lot to teach you still, and it's like, well, but
Sorry,
why
you
wouldn't
only
he just
get
bring
one,
his
pal.
grandpa back? If he's the one telling you, the master, what he has to teach, well, just bring the grandpa back.
Yeah.
Screw Roshi. You just met him.
it's like as soon as he brings back Roshi, he's like, oh, my grandfather.
Like he just met him. Yeah, he's like, oh, did that. Yeah,
oh,
like
man.
Survivor's
Yeah.
Guild or whatever.
Well,
like,
fluid.
what the hell?
The beauty of the Dragon Balls in general is they're a great plot device to make anything happen, pretty much.
You can go get them again. Like they don't.
Yeah,
just,
yeah. Like at the end, they're like, oh, they're scattered
so they can
again.
get Roshi later.
Right.
Like you just met Roshi. You just met him.
Well, that's why they're playing all the movies. Yeah.
But I guess his body was there. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway.
They're like, it's Chow Yun-fat. We're getting him back.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get a little stinger, which I was not expecting, which I assume was to lead up to the potential sequels where some lady is just like slopping some stuff in a bowl and
Yeah.
Like, way too long.
way
Like,
too
that's-
long.
But do you know who that lady was?
No.
She's from the beginning of the movie with the little hiding under the floorboards with the little girl. She had the other Dragon Ball.
Okay. But she doesn't anymore, so.
Yeah, but like,
Slopping.
but she's there. Like, where's the daughter?
Yeah.
Second, like that's like a whole different thing. It's probably gonna be in the second movie would explain that better. But
Also, maybe it was explained in this and I just didn't care enough to pay attention to it, which is totally possible.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
But anyways, yeah, this lady's mixing some slop in a bowl and she takes it and we see someone under the blankies. And then, of course, it rolls over and it's Piccolo.
and he's
And then we
perfectly
get-
fine. He's like, hey, what's
perfectly
up?
fine. He's just snoozing.
Piccolo on a pillow.
Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, I guess I got to catch the Dragon Balls again or whatever. The end. So
Oh,
that
Jeff,
was,
that was a doozy.
yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and say not the best recap. Like,
No, I thought that was great.
Detail wise.
Dude,
That was perfect.
But yeah.
Sorry, I Gohan's or guy who plays Gohan, like Goku's
Yeah.
grandpa. He was the key maker in the Matrix movies.
That's right. I thought he
I was
looked
like, this guy
familiar.
looks familiar, and I looked it up. I was like, oh, it's him. That's cool.
That is cool.
He has a friendly face.
Jeff, thank you for that recap. We're going to jump into our feedback now, where I'm going to go to each one of you and ask you what you thought of this movie now that we watched it and we talked about it. Jeff, you're going to go first. Give us your feedback.
Yeah, this movie was everything they said it was. Just a complete atrocity against the Dragon Ball name, and it should have never been made. I will say that through looking this up, I discovered that there is actually another live action Dragon Ball movie.
What?
What?
Yeah.
Is it like-
Hold on.
Was it direct to video?
No.
Was it Japanese one? Like
Yeah,
produced?
it's like old, and I think it might be Japanese
was
or
it
Korean
prior?
or something. Yeah, it looks ridiculous, and we might have to watch it.
Yeah, bonus viewing.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, horrible movie. I'm sorry that I suggested it, but at the same time, it was fun to talk about with you guys.
Brian, actually, you know what? I'm going to go to Jordan because I want to hear Jordan because he's the other Dragon Ball fan.
Yes.
Jordan, what did you, what's your feedback? What did you think of Dragon Ball Evolution?
Just the worst. And it's not because I'm like, oh, you know, they did this horrible thing that something I love, but like as a movie, I think it's just bad.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But then obviously as a Dragon Ball Z fan or Dragon Ball fan, I was like, man, what are they doing? Like, but it makes sense. Like, you know, teen things are big around this time. Like you gotta kind of push it towards that kind of audience maybe, but that big of something that big of like a franchise, like Jeff said it earlier, like with some of the stuff, it's already written. Just like all you have to do is cast people, direct it, maybe have a better budget, and you could like kind of stick to the plot of like the original source material. Like you'd make millions or probably billions of dollars from that, but they blew it.
They sure did.
You blew it.
And they also like tweak certain things. Like they made Goku 18. They made kind of like a you know, horny teenager, and like the way he looked when he turned into his ape just looked like stupid, and like I don't know. It's I didn't like it. Yeah, let's say that.
Brian, what about you? What did you think of Dragon Ball Evolution?
The only proper way to watch this film is to go in your car, find a Walmart that's still open at 2 a.m., find a DVD copy of this film, and pizza bagels. Put the pizza bagels in the microwave and the DVD in the player. About 20 minutes into the film, put your head into the microwave with the pizza bagels. This concludes your viewing of Dragon Ball Evolution. No, it's
Put your DVD in the microwave, put the pizza bagels in the DVD player.
yeah, correct. No, it's just like, dude, it's this weird thing of like they took an anime property and turned into this weird like early 2000s fever dream of a teen movie. And it just felt like I was stuck in purgatory the entire time I was watching it. I do not recommend this film unless you're just really hurting to see a bad Dragon Ball movie. That's about it.
So, when did they start? Did they start writing this movie like maybe in the early 2000s, and it just took that long to shoot and release?
Well,
Like maybe that's why it was stuck in that?
Well, remember, like I said, Akira Toriyama, the creator, was involved with it, and he didn't like the direction it was taking, so that probably gummed it up. And then they were finally like, get out of here, creator of this thing that we're making. Get the hell out of here!
What do you know? What do you know?
Right? Like, the guy that could have maybe salvaged it.
You know, Buster, I saw Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the one question I have, like, or no, not really a question. For me, what I think is it was not a good movie at all, but there's so much potential with this property. Like it could have been like as the next Lord of the Rings if they would have just put some money behind it. It could have been like this could be a huge like thing in like when it comes to like, you know, the American style of gigantic movie, blockbuster movie, summer movie. Like you could have like an entire trilogy make billions of dollars if you just put some money behind it, get good director, get,
Put the good writing behind it.
like
Yeah.
if you would have spent some more, like, I don't know, maybe if you redid it now, maybe they will. I mean, I'm sure they will eventually go back and redo another Hollywood.
They're constantly rebooting or reinvigorating series. So
And it could
wouldn't
be as
surprised.
big as anything else we've seen. It could be as big as Marvel in some cases. Like that property is so big, so beloved by so many people, as much as, you know, I mean, Batman and Superman, like Marvel, like it's beloved just as big, I would say, on the same level in around the world. But
Definitely, yeah.
for me, like watching this movie, again, I was so interested in what was going on. And I want to bring this up too, Jeff, because this is one of the first times I ever went to Jeff's house. We went into your bedroom, we played, I think, Xbox. And in your bedroom at the time, you had a giant painting of like Piccolo and like Goku
I did.
that were like
I had.
larger than life size on your wall.
I love Dragon Ball that much that I had them painted on my wall. I drew them and my dad painted them. It was pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, like as like ninth. I don't know. We met in like ninth grade or something. You're like walking into a kid's room like that, like whoa. Like it was pretty awesome to see something that big on like someone's wall. And you're like, my parents never let me do that crap. But
that's so funny that I didn't realize that I was friends with any of you guys while I still had that.
Yeah. But anyway, I think generally, like I said, the story wasn't engaging. The cinematography, like the sound, the cinematography, it wasn't well done. Like when they're driving through the desert those 2 times,
yeah,
it's like it looks like they're driving through some dark room. Like it looks like it's definitely a soundstage.
It's like
it doesn't
green
look
screen.
good at all.
It's a gene factory. Remember?
Right.
It's an abandoned jeans factory.
It looks like instead of spending the money on like a better like a setup, they like made it really dark in the background because you just could tell the foreground had like the sand and crap.
Had to hide the
Yeah,
jeans.
like and they had just put like big rocks in the background. Like it was so bad. The not even the acting could really save it in most cases. Like the interaction between the people, between the characters was terrible. Like they just felt like they were just there.
Yeah.
Young,
they were decent actors. They just phoned
right,
it in.
but exactly. Like young Aaron Paul was the only one actually trying out there,
Yeah.
and he just was a terrible actor. Overall, I did not enjoy it. But let's go around now and give a thumbs up, thumbs down for Dragon Ball Evolution. Jeff, yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, so real quick before I do give that, the other Dragon Ball movie is called Dragon Ball The Magic Begins, and it was made in 1991, and it looks ridiculous, and I just texted it to you guys. So take a look at that CG dragon. But anyways, that might be a later episode on a different season of Watch Pals. But I'm going to have to, again, I don't know who this movie was made for, but it certainly wasn't Dragon Ball fans. So big, huge, fat, stinky thumbs down from me.
Jordan, what'd you give it?
Oh, thumbs way down, way down.
Most thumbs way down.
Most possible thumbs. I'm sorry, you guys said that like the Uzaru was a spirit that like went from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, that's what they indicated
dumb.
anyway.
That's so stupid.
Because like
I like how he's just like having this dream of like, oh God, was that a nightmare?
Yeah, they're the forms of Saiyans like Goku. He's an alien. They all have tails, and the full moon happens. So like, why would they not even like say that? I don't know. Maybe they're planning on doing something with the sequels, but yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, thumbs way down.
Yeah. If there's another Saiyan like Vegeta or something, if he would have popped up, how do they explain him being Ozaru too? Like, it doesn't make sense what they did. So,
Brian, what do you give it? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs down in your jeans pockets where they filmed it, and
big hairy ape thumb down.
Thumbs down for Errand, ERRAND Paul.
Errand Paul. Okay.
He's running errands, Paul.
I also will give it a thumbs down because it's just like I said. I explained before. It's just not a great film in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sorry for everybody who had to watch it. I'm sorry for anybody that listened to us last week and was like, I'm going to watch that movie too. Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening.
All right. Next week, we are going to watch the movie, which is my choice. We're going to watch the 1989 movie, The Wizard. And I picked The Wizard because
it sucks.
He's peeing.
because he loves California.
California.
Whenever I was younger, and this movie was on cassette or VHS, sorry, VHS.
Cassette.
It was on cassette.
I was like, I'm going to listen to this. Yeah. This movie
audio
sucks. I
book.
can't even see it. I remember there was a huge snowstorm, and my dad and I walked to the video store, local video store in the snowstorm because everything was shut down, roads were shut down. And we walked to the local video store, and I rented The Wizard because I was like, Nintendo's awesome. You know, I was like, what, like 5 or 6 years old at the time, 7 years old maybe at this point, like 1990 maybe, early, like because it came out in 89, so I don't know when it was on cassette, video, VHS. And so I rented that, and I rented, I think it was the NES was not the Animaniacs, but the other one.
Looney Tunes,
but like the younger ones.
Tiny Toons.
Tiny Toons. Yes, thank you.
Tiny Toons Adventure.
I rented that game, and I went home. We walked in the snow, and I had to jam it in my pocket, and we're like trying to walk without getting blown away, and there's snow everywhere. And we watched that movie that night, and I watched it like the rest of the weekend because it was like I think the cable was out or something. Like it was terrible. Power may have went out at one point, but I played that game. I watched that movie. It was an awesome weekend, and I watched a movie so many times growing up, but I always rented it. I never actually owned it until like later in life, like maybe like 95. Somehow we got copied to another blank tape, and we were like, I'm going to watch all that. And it was just something I watched growing up a lot, and I rented it a lot and everything. And when my dad said, you can get a movie and a game that weekend, I was like, what? Like, you're going to let me get both? This is nuts.
What's happening?
Yeah, like what is going on? And that's what I got back. So I'm hoping watching this isn't just more about nostalgia, and that it actually is an okay movie. But I'm excited to watch it and talk about it next week on the Watch Pals. Thank you, Jeff, for being here and for driving this ship this week.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Jordan, for being here and being a bundle of joy as always.
My pleasure.
And Brian, thank you most of all for being just a great pal to all of us.
Most of all,
Jesus.
Wow.
Thank you for tying me to a chair and forcing me to watch this film.
So yeah, fun fact, I work with Brian, and I would see him and he would be like, I got through like another 20 minutes, man. I gotta like
I had to go through, I had to pace myself.
Watch me every time you're in the bathroom.
I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he just gave me turned my stomach every time.
Just lets it loose.
Oh boy.
Okay. Next week, we're watching The Wizard. Thank you again, everybody, for listening or watching, however you're doing it. Please follow us on social media. Check out the website for links to those social media at watchpals.show. You can also check the show notes for all of the information to our social media accounts and to the website. You can also send us an email at watchpals.show@gmail.com. And again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next week on the Watch Pals. Say your watches, Brian.
Clean your glasses, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
See you later.
I didn't know what to say.